Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the opening bell. This is a bonus pod looking ahead to this weekend's action, and there's lots of it. Wilder against Chisora, nominally top of the bill on Saturday at the O2. Not sure how well the tickets have gone for this. Quite expensively priced, the tickets for Wilder Chisora. Matt, I suppose in many ways they're made for each other. They deserve each other, given the stage of their careers that they're at. They've got strengths and weaknesses that probably match off. How are you feeling about this one before we get into the details? How are you feeling about it emotionally?
Not as concerned as I have been in the past when you got Derek Chisora going in with someone, which sounds, if you'd have said that 2 years ago or 3 years ago, that Derek Chisora is going in with Deontay Wilder and you're not that concerned what Deontay Wilder might do to him, you'd think, I'd gone mad. I think long ago I accepted that Derek Chisora was going to finish his career when he wanted to finish it. He's been quite open about the fact that he's never really gives too much thought to the long-term future in terms of what this sport will turn out to have done to him. And for him to have a final fight, if it is to be a final fight, against someone like Deontay Wilder, I just think fair play to him, really. I think when you look back at Derek Chisora's career and all the losses he's had and the way that when he first started out, he was kind of creating more enemies than friends, and now he's kind of borderline national treasure territory. One could argue that he has crafted the perfect career. The concern, of course, is the amount of punishment he's taken along the way, and it defies all logic that he'll come out of this sport unscathed. Whether it comes back to bite him in a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, it seems it's a certainty that it will. But he has loved every moment of his career, pretty much from when he went out to Finland. And do people remember this? Back when he went out to Finland and he was robbed of a decision against Robert Helenius, I was out there in ringside for that. And it was the morning after, walking through the airport with Derek Chisora and him, who prior to that, I think he hadn't had a loss before, and he felt like it had ruined his whole career. He's like, I'm done with this sport. I'm done with it because that is just unfair. I wasn't expected to win. Everybody saw that I won, yet 3 people at ringside said that I didn't. He says, I'm done with this sport. I don't want any part of it anymore. Having spoken to him several years after that and reminding me of that conversation, that was when he said he decided to do things differently, in that he wasn't really that bothered about world title fights after that. He wasn't really, he was in it for himself. And boy, as someone who's in it for himself, if you ignore what punishment will do to the brain long term, he has had such a wonderful career for someone at his level. And I admire him for that. I'll always admire Derek Chisora for that. And you look at Deontay Wilder now, and you kind of wonder about Deontay Wilder. I'm probably as concerned about Deontay Wilder as I am Derek Chisora. But you send yourself stupid if all you're doing is worrying about the effect that a punch might have when you work in boxing for a living. I think on the surface, it might be quite fun. Wilder, to me, is his decline in form is far more accelerated than that of Derek Chisora. Look, Derek Chisora's got 3 good wins under his belt in the last year or so, which kind of defies belief when you think back to what he looked like in the 3rd fight with Tyson Fury. But Deontay Wilder, I don't know. I mean, some of the interesting things I've seen in the last week or so is Deontay Wilder saying that every sparring partner that came into camp to prepare him for this one was being offered a $1,000 knockout bonus. So you come and try and knock me out so I can see that I can prove to myself that I'm not fragile, that I can still take a shot. How wise that is, and if anybody got paid the $1,000 bonus, we don't know. But if Wilder is anything like the Wilder of old, I'd be astonished.
No. And the last time we saw him against an outmatched, undersized, simply not good enough opponent, he did kind of huff and puff, didn't he? I think stylistically, we know what's at play here. Wilder has never really been much of a front foot fighter. I think naturally he wants to counter punch with the right hand. He tries from time to time, doesn't he? But he kind of flicks out with the jab. It's possible that he manages just to get centre ring and he walks Chisora onto the big right hand. But I think the noticeable thing in that performance against Herndon was that he was hardly throwing the right hand at all through the first half of the fight. And when he did, he was missing wildly with it. So his timing was so poor. And he's always been a fighter that you want to get on the back foot. And you're almost certain that Chisora is going to try and do that. And if anyone can do it, then I think Chisora is the one that can do that and force Wilder onto the back foot and just make it really physical, really scruffy, really untidy, the kind of fight that Wilder just doesn't want. And I suspect that's what Chisora is going to do. Just put it on him, force him back, and make it his kind of fight. And I think it probably will end up being Chisora's kind of fight.
Yeah, I mean, all recent form suggests that Derek Chisora will win this fight. I mean, I haven't looked at the odds. I don't know who the favourite is. I suspect 1-2. Is.
1-2 favourite. What a sign of the times, Matt, that he's 1-2 favourite to beat Wilder, who's 15-8, nearly 2-1 against.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible, really, when you think back to Deontay Wilder's run. I think he had 10 successful defences of his WBC heavyweight belt. But during that reign, even though he would look rickety and he would look hittable, and you just think he's going to get outboxed here, he would always have that equaliser, which, although I'm sure if Derek Chisora stands still and invites him to hit his chin, Wilder could probably land it, but he hasn't looked capable of landing that right hand for several years now. And I think for both of them, I think Tyson Fury has taken an awful lot off both of them, but more so, I think, Deontay Wilder. You go back and you look at that, just the second fight with Tyson Fury, just that second fight. Wilder took a pasting, horrible pasting, eventually stopped in the 7th round. The third fight as well, Wilder was down heavy several times in that bout, knocked out more or less cold in the end. These will have an effect. You look at the Luis Ortiz fights with Deontay Wilder. And you just, he said, I think he said it's Tris Dixon towards the end of last year. Don't worry about me. I'm going to be fighting for another 10 years. I mean, he is showing all the signs of a fighter right at the end of his career. All of the signs. And although we've said that about Chisora numerous times, we've said it about a single performance from Chisora. We'll see Chisora look bad, for example, top of my head in the Joseph Parker rematch, and he'll come back and beat Kubrat Pulev. We see him look bad, like awful, against Tyson Fury, and then he gets those 3 wins against Gerald Washington, Joe Joyce, and Otto Wallin. So you'd think that Chisora will have enough. I can envision a situation where Chisora just completely walks through him in 4 or 5 rounds. But I can just about also remember Chisora getting knocked out by David Haye, by getting knocked out by Dillian White. And you could, if Wilder can manage to just put one right hand on the chin, a full-blown right hand on the chin of Chisora, you can also imagine Chisora getting knocked out himself.
Yes, yeah, no doubt about it. Because let's not forget, Chisora was he was stung and hurt against Joe Joyce, and late on, wasn't he? And he was stung and hurt against Joseph Parker. And you wouldn't be surprised if suddenly with Chisora the wheels just came off, literally just came off. But and I do remember, although I'm saying Chisora will get Wilder on the back foot, and I think he will. I think there's a small chance Wilder gets centre ring, pause with a jab, and just catches Chisora marooned in the middle on the end of a shot. It is possible. And I also remember when he was back against the ropes against Helenius, what was that, 3+ years ago, Matt, where he did manage to, with almost no real estate, knock out Helenius with his back against the ropes. So there are a couple of snapshots of what Wilder could do, but I think the percentage call is that he's just not there anymore. And Chisora makes it the kind of fight that favours him. And that's the way I see it. I think Chisora just closes the gap, gets Wilder on the back foot and just rumbles and roughs and makes it uncomfortable. And either that unfolds sort of over an unsightly 12 rounds, or possibly he wears him down and an exhausted Wilder just can't do it anymore.
Yeah, or Chisora himself manages to get Wilder to walk onto one, which seems the unlikeliest out of those scenarios that we put forward. But you kind of hope it's the swan song for both of them. The fear is that there will be a spectacular. Well, it's not fear; it's something that might well happen. Imagine if Chisora walks out, blasts through Deontay Wilder in 3 rounds. Is he then really going to walk away? And likewise, if all of a sudden round 4, Wilder sets his feet and knocks Chisora out in the 4th round, Wilder's going to carry on. I think Wilder's talking about carry on regardless. But this would be a fitting goodbye for both of them. But one wonders what will follow for the victor.
Indeed, it's a very good point, and I think you're right to raise it. It's the big if. It has to be weighted against what it is that happens and how it happens. But an impressive winner either way. Suddenly, the winner starts getting talked about for Moses Atama, doesn't they?
Oh yeah,
probably.
Yeah, without question.
So we're both with Chisora. Just,
I think so. I think in a fight like this, really, you kind of you don't know how much either of them have got left. You don't know how well camp has gone for either of them unless you've been involved in that camp, and you've not just witnessed half an hour of it. You've witnessed the entire thing. So all you can go on is recent form. I suppose the only asterisk / caveat with Deontay Wilder is that with those fights that were financed by Turkey Al Sheikh, is that they would have been financial offers that were simply too good to turn down. He said he wasn't right really for either of them. We've heard all this so many times before, particularly with a fighter right at the end of their career trying to justify some poor performances that would otherwise tell you that their best days have gone. Deontay Wilder saying he wasn't right, hadn't trained well for either of those 2 fights, essentially took them for the money, but he is all in on this one. I can't think of an example off the top of my head where someone will look as shot as Deontay Wilder has looked for the last few years to then be able to all of a sudden turn it around just because they've dedicated themselves to training camp, particularly at the age that Deontay Wilder is. So do you know what? I'm going to go for a Chisora to stop Deontay Wilder. I'm going to go for a stoppage. Stoppage.
I think the undercard is interesting, isn't it? Vidal Riley's a short price favourite to beat Matthias Masternak, who's operated at a much higher level. Masternak, who was stopped by Chris Billam-Smith by a body shot. He was retired, wasn't he? But I think he broke his ribs, or hurt his ribs a couple of years ago, back in 23. He's kind of regrouped with a couple of wins. The Riley's a short price favourite. That's all about timing, isn't it, with Vidal Riley? They think that just at 38, Masternak's too old. But, you know, Riley, he sort of huffed and puffed. He deserved to beat Chev Clark, but it was a bit of a huff and puff victory that night. And I'm just looking at the betting. I think Masternak at 11-4, nearly 3-1. I think he might just still nearly have enough to win that one. Certainly, that's one of the bets I'm interested in, half interested in for the weekend.
Yeah, you are, and I think that the odds makers have probably looked at Masternak's age, his long career in the sport, and again the perception that he's quite simply on the decline. The last time he was in a really big fight was against Chris Billam-Smith, and until the sudden finish in that, he was winning. I think on 2 of the 3 cards, Masternak was winning, and Chris will be honest with you and say it was a really tough fight for him. If Masternak is still at that level, then Vidal Riley's got a really difficult night ahead of him. Riley has shown a lot of potential, but not, I don't want to be disrespectful, but not enough to think that he's going to go on and win world titles, in my opinion. So if he comes through this and he comes through it good looking, I think it's a great result for him.
It's good matchmaking for both of them, to be honest. But I think Masternak at 11-4 is the bet. And I'm really looking forward to Denzel against Edri Saavedra, who's quite a hard fighter to read. Venezuelan who's based in Mexico, Saavedra. He's unbeaten in 5 with 4 knockouts. He's quite he looks like he might be heavy-handed, but it's hard to read and interpret, really. He looks like he can take a shot as well. But Denzel's a much sharper shooter, a much slicker boxer. I think he might be the cleaner puncher. It's just the fact that he's been out of the ring for a while. But he's just the favourite, Denzel, around even money, slight odds on. I think I'd be picking Denzel Bentley. But Saavedra's quite a tough read, Matt, isn't he? He's quite a tough read.
He is. He had that draw, didn't he? Not last time out, the time before. Was it Cesar Tapia? He does look like he's heavy-handed. You would think that on all of the evidence we have of Denzel Bentley is best, that Denzel Bentley will win the fight. And what has the break done for him as a fighter? Has it, even though it's been exceptionally frustrating, beyond frustrating for him, has it kind of recharged the batteries a little bit? Has he got the bit back between his teeth? And are we going to see the best of Denzel Bentley? I'm leaning towards that scenario rather than the Denzel Bentley that we saw against Nathan Heaney, for example, where he kind of went into that fully expecting he was going to win. I think Denzel Bentley, as a consequence of the time he's had out of the ring, the frustrations that he's endured during that time out of the ring, will go into this knowing full well what he has to do to kind of keep his career alive. It's a good opportunity for Bentley to kind of put his name back in that middleweight mix. And, you know, you hope that he does it. You really, really hope that Denzel Bentley does it.
Well, we're grateful to Phil Rogers, who spoke to Denzel Bentley for this interview. You're going to hear from Denzel, find out why he's been out of the ring, the frustrations he's been through, the impact it's had on his finances, on his family, the landscape in his division, the failed tests, what he thinks about all of that. Phil Rogers speaking to Denzel Bentley. Here's what they had to say.
Denzel, April 4th then, you take on Edri Saavedra on the undercard of the Chisora Wilder fight. Now, this is your first fight back since you beat Brad Pauls back in December 2024. So the most obvious question I'm going to ask you is, where have you been?
I've been in the gym. I've been in the gym waiting for the phone to ring, but don't know why we couldn't get anything made. I mean, I was happy to defend my British title and my European title. Of course, like, given the situation I was in, being number 1 with the WO and being able to fight an eliminator, I was advised to vacate those titles and just sit out and wait. But I would have much preferred to have boxed throughout the year while I was waiting for this opportunity than to vacate them. But obviously I'm just being advised, you know, by my team, whatever, or my promoters, whatever, and I acted based on their advice and kept me at the ring for over a year. So, yeah.
Tell me a bit about how a boxer manages a lengthy layoff like that, because it just can't be easy. You know, it's such a core part of your identity as much as your career. So how do you manage a layoff like that in your head?
It's hard. I mean, I can't really explain it. I mean, you have to actually be living in that situation in order to kind of overcome it. There's no advice to give anyone to overcome it, because especially like when you're in my position, I'm not at the top, but of course I'm also not at the bottom. I'm at that middle stage where if I'm active, of course I'm earning a bit of money, so I can pay for my bills and live a certain lifestyle or be able to box full time. So I'm fortunate in that sense. But if I'm not active like I was the last year, it's very difficult to train as well as just make ends meet. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, not to, you know, tell a sob story or whatever, but I haven't been paid for a whole year. I haven't boxed for a whole year. I haven't been paid. So I'm trying to make ends meet. There was times I thought about, you know, I might just have to get a job for a little while while I'm out. Of course, the commentary stuff that I do, the punditry stuff, kept me afloat a little bit. I've got a young family as well also that, you know, I want to be able to provide for. But other than that, just being in the gym and not fighting and seeing people and everyone asking when's your next fight and you have no clue, those are frustrating questions to answer. So even though all last year when I was up being asked to do interviews and stuff, I just like, no, because I've got nothing for you. You're going to ask me questions that I don't really want to answer or I don't have the answer to. So, and every aspect of life was frustrating, especially I'm always in the gym. So I'm in the gym every day. It costs to get to the gym. I got to drive an hour and a half all the way to get to the gym. I got to train, get back food, whatever I get back to my life. So that's a year of just expenses. And I just thought stay ready in case something comes up and maybe I can jump in. There was a few middleweight title fights that were on. I would have took a last minute call. If Janibek got popped earlier for that Lara fight, I would have put my hand up saying, if you need an opponent, chuck me in there. So I've been ready. I've been in the gym. And the good thing is I don't feel burnt out now that I'm, coming to the end of this camp for this. I've just been in the gym, been ready, been learning, and, I've rigged the storm and now we're at the end of the tunnel.
Andriy Saavedra then is your opponent, Venezuelan with a record of 17-1-1. What do you know about him? What are you expecting of him on the night?
I'm expecting a good fight, man. I'm expecting someone that's going to come forward, throw a lot of punches. I know he likes to target the body. He's very, very intense. And as the rounds go on, he gets more and more intense. I think I'm right in saying he was an Olympian. So this is someone with a world of experience, more experience than myself. But listen, I think it's going to make for a good fight. And just as much as this is an opportunity of a lifetime for me, it's an opportunity of a lifetime for him, more so for him to change his life and, his family's life and stuff. So he's not someone I can take lightly. I mean, yeah, he's a good fighter, similar knockout ratio to me, so he can clearly punch. I've watched a few of his fights. He is aggressive, he is spiteful. So I'm looking forward to it, man. I think he'll make a good fight.
Talk to me a little bit about the middleweight division at world level at the moment. What's your assessment of the landscape at middleweight right now?
The middleweight division is a bit all over the place. Not because there aren't any good fighters, but just because there's no standout names. There's a load of quality fighters, but there's just no standout names. There's no stars in the division yet. You got Carlos Adamas, who's a great fighter, but he isn't a standout name. You got Lara, who's a great fighter, but is also past his best. His best years are behind him, but still performs at a good level. But everyone looks at him as, he's 42, he's been quiet, he's not really active. He's on the PBC side of things where they keep everything in-house, so we know that doesn't really get him out there. So, and then you got Janibek, who also is a great fighter, but isn't a massive name, doesn't sell. Obviously, because of the language barrier, it's hard to, sell him on the Western side of things or where boxing is really picking up. So everyone's just a bit like, okay, we're waiting for someone who can be perceived as a star to take over. But unfortunately, no one's yet been able to do that or had opportunities. And also, a few situations don't really help the cause as well. So, yeah.
Right. I mean, I wish I didn't have to talk about performance-enhancing drugs, but sadly, it's a central part of the middleweight story at the moment. So I'll just recap this for listeners. You fought for the WBO middleweight title back in November 2022 against Janibek Alimkhanuli, but lost on points. Fast forward to December 2025, and Janibek tests positive for a banned substance, meldonium, just before his unification title fight with Lara. He held 2 belts at this point. It was the IBF and the WBO, but the response from those sanctioning bodies has been very different. The IBF have stripped him, but the WBO have let him keep his belt, but suspend him for a year. So what is your response to that?
I mean, I can be really critical because sometimes I am, but sometimes I think I speak so much I get in trouble and don't even know I'm in trouble yet until I see how the things are going. But I just think, look, he failed the test. I think I know the IBF have, but just both governing bodies strip him, or the WBO ever strip him, and when he fights, his casing is allowed to be back because he's been suspended by the WBO and by his governing body back in Kazakhstan. Mm-hmm. So technically, right now, he doesn't have a license. Mm-hmm. So the world champion in our division doesn't hold a boxing license, which is crazy. Once he solves his case out, whatever happens, he can get, a mandatory position to fight the new champion. But this way, the division can't move on. This is why the middleweight division is so stale right now. You have an opportunity for there to be a new champion, and we can't even do that because this guy's managed to hold these belts without a professional license, whilst breaching the rules of the sport. I mean, the IBF didn't say anything when it first came out. They probably investigating behind closed doors and not putting out statements and stuff, which is a good thing. But I also think the IBF felt pressured to strip him because of what they just done to Opetaya. Opetaya was stripped for not fighting a fight that wasn't sanctioned by the IBF, and they stripped him. They're going to be so harsh in a situation like that. You've got to be harsh in a situation where someone has also popped the PED. So I guess that's obviously pushed them against the wall. Like, okay, now we've got to take action here, which is a good thing because I think the IBF are a great governing body. And the WBO are trying their best to keep everyone happy. But in this situation, yes, I'm fighting for the interim. I'm grateful for that. And they're also a great governing body. But in this situation, it's not as if Janabek was injured or he was in a life-threatening situation where he physically can't compete. And for that, you're going to give him some grace. Allow him to keep his belts. When he's fully fit, he can defend it. He's cheated. Like he's cheated. That's what it says in the thing. He's been caught taking PEDs and hasn't been able to, defend himself to say he's innocent or not. So right now he's guilty because he's been suspended. So you found this man guilty, but he still gets to become champion. So now no one in the division can become the WBO champion for a whole year until he served his ban. So he's not really being punished. The rest of the division is, in my opinion. He's not being punished because when he comes back, he gets to come straight back into the mix, fight for big money, and keep his status as a champion. What has he really missed out on? He's not a very active fighter anyway. He probably wasn't going to fight this year or last year. He was going to have one fight last year or whatever. He's not as active, so it doesn't make a difference. So he's not really being punished. Like I said, everyone else in the division is because now we can't become champion until he serves his ban. So we have to wait. I just don't think it's fair. But look, I know governing bodies have a relationship with all these people separately and managers and promoters separately, and they're trying to make everyone happy, which is why they give me the interim and then he gets to keep the world title. I get to fight him when he's back, but I probably won't get to fight him until next year, April. He bans up in December. He's not going to fight me in December. You're going to need the camp to get back. So, but it is what it is. I'm happy I'm out. I'm fighting for the interim, and God willing, I win that. I'd see myself as the world champion regardless of the situation. I mean, you can't have a cheater, representing any governing body right now.
Yeah, it's utterly maddening for a mere fan like me, of course, when I read about these inconsistencies and these decisions from sanctioning bodies. But I'm not the one getting punched in the head. You're in there. You're risking your health against these kind of people.
Yeah, and that.
And so I wanted to ask you, in a sport that's already so dangerous, does it give you pause? Does it make you question your decision to remain as a prize fighter?
I mean, I guess not, because I've put a lot of my life into this, and as fighters, we're brave. We're too brave for our own good, which is why you can't also have a team that's braver than you. Do you know what I mean? Like, you saw Dalton Smith beginning of the year. He decided to fight someone that had, failed the PEDs test too, and beat him. That's to his heart. And he felt like, I don't care what you want. I'm still better than you to beat you. And that's how a lot of fighters feel or should feel, or whatever the case may be. So even me seeing him, in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, you cheat, I'll still fight you. But do you know what I mean? It's weird. I mean, we shouldn't do that because in any other sport, we'd say you're cheating, we're not playing. Do you know what I'm saying? But it's different. I mean, that's why we just, I don't know, man. It's crazy because everything costs money. It costs money to test. It costs money to do this and that. And people, promoters and stuff, ain't willing to pay for these things unless they're profiting massively off the show. So, like I said, everyone in that middle ground, it's just unfortunate. On the bigger scale of things, people are willing to spend more because they get more back. So, we just have to try our best to break through and get to that top stage and just hopefully reap the benefits.
You put up a fantastic hour-long documentary this week about your career on social media. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
What struck me watching it was there was a real sense of resilience after a lot of highs and lows in your career already. I wondered if there was one particular moment amongst all those challenges that you feel has been particularly helpful for you, either as a fighter or as a young man, as a father?
I'd say, as a fighter, the cash, for my first loss against Felix Cash. Then just as a human, as a father, and just like as now I am a man, the Heaney defeat really took the biggest lessons about myself in those two moments. Just because how I reacted when I lost the Cash, that was probably the most embarrassing moment that I could have felt in my career or life or whatever. I remember it was in lockdown. I was trying to leave the venue, and all my family had come up to York Court to come and see me. And I'd seen them first, and I tried to slip off like, I don't want them to see me like this. And then one of my friends told me and called me like, yo, Denzel. And I'm like, I can't run. And I was just like, this is crazy. It made me shed a tear. I'm like, there's no way it all came down here for me. This is crazy. And then the way I came back, I just wanted to fight on and like just make everyone around me proud and prove to myself that that's not me. I'm better than that. I can give more. I've got more to give. And I went on to do a little bit more after that. And then the Heaney loss, just after the loss, forget the fight and everything before it, after the loss, I went home and actually finally spent time with my son. And then I just started to realise nothing else outside of this matters. This is what matters. It was crazy because I felt like, I'm embarrassed. What am I going to do? I'm going to have to quit now. Like, how am I going to bounce back from that and blah, blah, blah. When I went back home and actually spent time with my son, who was just newly born at the time, that at first it was hard, and then as the weeks went on, I didn't even care. I didn't care. I'm looking at him now. How can I be angry at this when I'm a father and my life is changing? I'm still worried about boxing, and that's when I just learned to kind of separate boxing from real life. I'd forgotten about that fight until I went out into the boxing world, and someone said, "How did you do this to Heaney?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that." Like, I started feeling good at home. I was playing with my son, or doing what I can because he was just bored. He didn't need me, needed his mum. But I was just enjoying being a father and taking it in my stride, and just I hadn't even been to the gym, just being at home, just being a dad. And then I realised that there's more to life than boxing, because I made boxing my life. And then I kind of realised, no, like boxing, yeah, it is life, but there is life after boxing too, and outside of boxing. So now, even in camp, I didn't even want to go away. I stay at home. I don't want to miss a moment with my family, with my son, my partner, nothing. I just want to be there for everything. And yeah, I've managed to balance the two, and I know I'm a dad as well as a fighter, and I'm enjoying both of it right now. Wonderful.
You and trainer Martin Bowers, then, how long have you been working together?
My whole professional career, I think. It's been over, I think, I first went to the Peacocks 2015. My amateur coach, Ray, took me over there for some sparring. And he also had a pro fighter that was training there, Alan Higgins. And I used to just go there every sparring day, every week. And then about a year and a half later, I just decided to turn pro, and that's where I was. So 2017 till now, I've been at the Peacock gym with Martin.
And tell me about that relationship. How's that changed, developed over the years?
Yeah, a lot, because at first he was always in my corner, but my main trainer was Ray, who brought me there, Ray Bull. He obviously wanted to go back to the amateurs and do the amateur stuff, so he went back to the amateurs and left me with Martin probably around after the Annabek fight. But Martin's always been in my corner, always done my sessions, everything. So from that moment, our relationship has grown more, because it's more just me and him now instead of me, Ray, and Martin. So I remember Martin, he's so down to earth, and he's so like, he understands, he understands people. Like, it's weird. Like, he has good people management. I remember after the Cash fight, he said, "Look, Denz, if you think we're not good enough for you, we have a conversation. If you want to leave, like, it's up to you. Don't feel like you owe us anything and blah." And I'm like, "No, come on, man. We're not doing that just because I lost. I'm not losing." And then we pushed forward for the Annabek fight. Of course, his situation, he's not allowed to travel to America. And I'm like, "I'm not going without you." And he's like, "Yo, don't make my life decisions, jeopardize your future." So this is a man that's completely selfless. Completely selfless. The amount of things he's done for me outside of boxing also, like, you wouldn't think someone would do that. Like, I'm a person that I can understand everyone has their own problems in life. And if something can't be done, I don't expect it to be done for me. So everything is done for me. The appreciation I have for him, like I say it to him, he's like a father figure to me. I have a dad, my dad's in my life, but he's like another dad to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, if I need something, I need advice, I can pick up the phone to him, call him any time of the day, to be there for me. If I need something, he'd do it for me. And it's not just me he'd do it for. He's just got that heart. He'd do it for anyone. So that's just outside of boxing. But in boxing, he's someone I trust. Someone I don't want to let down. So like, sometimes in the fight, you're in the corner, and if you ain't got that kind of relationship with your coach, it's easy to just be like, nah, I'm just going to do this. I can look at him in the eyes and trust what he's saying. Or if a fight's going the wrong way, I look him in the eyes and I'm like, I don't want to let this man down. Like, after this fight, like, I can't look at you in your face. And that's how I felt after the Heaney fight. I couldn't look at him after I'd lost that fight. I was just like, it's crazy. But yeah, no, he's a great man, and I'm happy to have met him and him be my trainer. And I think no matter what, he would always be my trainer for as long as he's in the sport.
It's great to hear. I mean, we live in an age, don't we, where boxers will change their trainer the moment they suffer their first loss. And the fact that you two have remained together throughout your career, it feels like a story in itself, really, and perhaps a lesson for other fighters, maybe.
Yeah, no, I mean, if you're going to leave your coach, you leave them because you don't think they're good enough for you, not because of loss. But I feel like that's an internal thing. When fighters lose and they feel they need to change coaches, I feel like they're trying to push the blame onto someone else, which is why they leave. They don't want to accept fault. I think like everything I've learned in my life is to take accountability, no matter what happens. If this happens to me, it's my fault. One, because I've done it, and two, because I allowed you to let it happen to me. I shouldn't have allowed that. Do you know what I mean? So that's my thing. I take accountability. So me and Martin are at a point where if I'm doing something, who asked me? Like, go on, tell me. If you think I'm wrong, you can tell me. And I might be like, no, but Martin, I feel like this is working, so can I just try this? Okay, go for it. This is all in the sparring. I might come back to the corner and like, oh, look, Mark, I've done this because I feel like this. No worries. He trusts me as well. I've been in the sport long enough. He's taught me enough for him to trust me to try things, in the middle of a spar or in training or whatever. So we can have a conversation, we can communicate. And I feel like that's probably why we've lasted so long, that we don't really clash heads. It's not his way or no way. We can have a conversation about certain things and what works. And as long as it's working, we're both happy. I mean, other fighters, I don't know, maybe they don't have that relationship with their trainer where they feel like they can have that conversation. Or, like I said earlier, I feel like they're shifting blame on the reason why they lost. Because my coach said this, that's why I lost. And it's like, at the end of the day, you're in there. Only you can feel what's going on. If you need to adjust, you need to adjust. But, yeah, I guess maybe just, relationships. But people always go on like there's no loyalty in boxing. And I feel like it's not the sport that there's no loyalty in. It's a character trait. If you're not loyal in life, you won't be loyal in boxing. If you're not loyal in your walk of life, or if that's not your character, you won't keep it just because it's this sport or whatever. That's just how you are. So, yeah.
Denzel Bentley, April 4th. Best of luck. And I hope everyone leaves healthy and safe. Thank you very much for your time today.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Fascinating listen, that, Matt. Fascinating listen. Frustrating for him to be out of the ring on advice of his team, sort of managers and promoters. And obviously they're looking at the bigger picture. They've also got other chess pieces to move around as well. But really they're looking at the landscape. And it just shows you sometimes that, rightly or wrongly, you can make good decisions for bad reasons or bad decisions for good reasons, but they all have cause and effect. And there's been plenty of effect on Denzel Bentley over the course of the last year or so.
Yeah, thanks, Phil. That's a terrific interview. And thanks to Denzel as well for being so kind of open and honest with every single question. I think it's a fascinating look into the mind of a fighter and just that inactivity and just essentially being told to wait. Just wait your turn, wait your turn, wait your turn. This will get sorted out, and all sorts of things are happening in the background that are preventing that from happening. And he talks about, and it's something that I don't think that we mention enough in regard to boxers, is that they're not like footballers, for example, that are on a contract where they're getting paid every week or every month. If they don't fight, they don't get paid. And even though Denzel, no doubt, has made some nice paydays, in his career to date. I'd be astonished if he was financially secure, and he alludes to the fact that he's not. He hasn't made enough money to see him through the rest of his days. So when he's not fighting, he's having to look at his bank account. How am I going to make this last? And worse than that is, it's not like he's been working towards this for the last 14, 15 months, however long it's been. He just didn't know when the next fight was coming. So how do you kind of plan financially for that? But I just thought it was a terrific insight into the kind of person that Denzel Bentley is. I've spoke to him only on the phone, maybe 2 or 3 times, and he's like that. He's really open. He's really affable. And as I said before we heard the interview, you hear something like that, you hear what he's got to say, you hear what he's been through, and it's really, really hard not to root for him. If someone deserves it now, if someone deserves his chance and deserves to earn the money that he thought he was going to earn 12 months ago, it's Denzel Bentley.
What a lot to go through. Emotionally, you've got to be strong, haven't you? You need the support of good people, loved ones and friends and family, the gym, coaches, gym mates. That needs to be a strong support network, and you need a mindset to get through that. Imagine not getting paid for a year. Imagine that. I mean, try that. Plus, you're still having to put food on the table. You still put food in your own body. You still got to go and train, even though you don't know when or why or how. And then alongside that, in and amongst it, you've got the craziness of the sanctioning body, the WBO in this instance, who their champion fails a drugs test, but they don't remove his title immediately. I mean, you've got all of the context of that with Janabek jangling around in your head as well. And you must be thinking, this business is mad. These people are nuts. How am I supposed to work in this environment? How am I supposed to profit, prosper, flourish in this culture? How is it possible that I'm going to bang my head against this wall?
And I think with all of that in mind, the fact that Denzel Bentley was dragging himself to the gym every day and staying in shape so that when this fight came along, he was in a position to take it. And he said during that interview, didn't he? He said that I was always ready. If someone dropped out of a big fight, I was part of me thinking, I hope I get the call because I'm ready. I can step in at 2 weeks' notice. But the fact that he kept himself in shape while being on the sidelines is not easy and takes an awful lot of dedication and self-belief. And it brings to mind a conversation I had with Harlem Eubank when he was left on the sidelines for the best part of 12 months. And he said the only way you can get through it as a boxer is to believe that there will be a fight soon. And you have to treat each training session as if there is some light at the end of the tunnel. And hopefully we will get to see the fruit of all of Denzel Bentley's labour over the last 14, 15 months or whatever, because he's come through a really difficult time. And one hopes that he gets through this and then he gets the fight afterwards that he deserves.
Yeah, man, you said it right. Hard not to root. Hard to try to be impartial with regard to this one. Let's be honest about it. Impossible for us, and I suspect the OB listeners, impossible for us not to be rooting for Denzel Bentley. Saavedra, he looks heavy-handed. I think he's got a chin as well. He went down against Tapia, really heavy shot, and he shook it well. So I think he's got a good chin. So he is dangerous. I've actually commentated on a couple of Tapia fights a few years ago out in Dubai. And he certainly back then, he looked a kind of prospect with, regional title ability, not necessarily much more than that. So I think as a form line, I think that's suspicious and it doesn't look good enough. But the fact that Saavedra can take a shot and it looks like he's heavy-handed, I think he's dangerous. He tends to throw a lot of hooks, and Denzel's a really sharp shooter through the middle, isn't he? So I think Denzel should be too sharp, a little too cute and too good. But that's if he's the same version of himself that we've seen before. If he is, then I'd definitely take him to win, Matt.
Yeah, and I think that Bentley will win. I think you also need to consider that this is the first time not the first time, I think it's the second time in his whole career that his opponent has fought outside of Mexico. And it's the first time he's fought in the UK. That doesn't always suit travelling fighters. On the flip side, we've seen numerous Mexican fighters come over to the UK and appear far better than advertised and give the home fighter a really uncomfortable night's work. So we can't write off that possibility.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that's on the Wilder Chisora bill. In Cardiff on Saturday, Lauren Price is back. That's both on DAZN and I think the BBC Two. Lauren Price against Stephanie Pinheiro. And there's a British title fight there, Reese Edwards against Gully Power. So Lauren Price is back. And the ladies in action on Sunday at the Olympia as well. Dubois, Harper topping the bill, but Ellie Scottney, Chantel Cameron and Emma Dolan all fighting on that card as well. Why is Caroline Dubois suddenly playing the heel, Matt? Where's that come from?
I don't know, but it seems to be doing her quite well actually, exposure-wise.
Yeah, she's riled Harper, and I think understandably so. Terry Harper's kind of got the hump with it. She's bounced back, Harper, hasn't she, from that defeat to Sandy Ryan? So, and she's probably fighting at a more natural stroke correct weight for her at the lightweight, but Dubois looks pretty good. She looks mustard at times. She's not invulnerable. She's been clocked and stung in her career a couple of fights back, but understandably Dubois is a heavy favourite for this one.
Yeah, and I think rightly so. And I think, you know, I do think this is a far more fitting weight for Harper, but at some point, is all the yo-yoing up and down in weight gonna have an effect on her? And although she has regained her form to a degree, I think those that have Dubois as a healthy favourite do so for a valid reason. And I do expect to see Dubois win this one and win it impressively. I'm looking forward to seeing Ellie Scottney on the bill as well. You know, she's got a tough fight against Rosquero, and I thought it was quite funny, actually. Have you seen the footage this week of Jake Paul?
Speaking to Jake Paul, yeah.
Jake Paul just cannot get his head around the fact that she's going to the gym on the bus every day and kind of that. It's just talk about two worlds colliding.
Yeah.
Got Jake Paul.
He's like, why are you not getting a helicopter and a chauffeur? Yeah, exactly. She's getting like a train and a couple of buses from Southeast London. Yeah, talk about culture shocks. Yeah, that's been gold dust on social media. Thanks to NAS Medical, our sponsors. Thanks to the lovely patrons as well, powering the pod. You can do so too for less than $5 each month. Help us produce the kind of content that hopefully you enjoy. And we thank Rogers for that excellent interview with Denzel. We thank Denzel for his time as well. Hopefully more where that came from in the coming weeks as we push the opening bell forward. Thanks for your time. Take care. Bye for now.